Hello, everyone, and welcome to Future Nonprofit, a podcast and YouTube channel where we sit down with industry experts, both in and out of the nonprofit space, to talk about how to build and scale the nonprofits our world needs tomorrow. I'm your host, Ted Vaughn, the co-author of Culture Built My Brand and the co-founder of Historic Agency. If you have not yet checked out the audio version of Future Nonprofit, it is a highly produced, amazing 20 to 30-minute journey through each of our guests' stories. Be sure and check that out. Like and follow us wherever you get your podcasts or here on YouTube. And I hope you really enjoyed today's episode. We talked to some amazing people. If you had to describe what you do to a 5-year-old who was just asking, hey, what do you do? What do you do for a living? What would your kind of quick sentence answer be to a 5-year-old that wants to know what you do for your job?
So I would say I'm the guy who does everything and anything needs to be done to help those who are less fortunate than I am in Ukraine. Because as far as my duties, even though I'm a head of the nonprofit, but I do everything from picking up the donations, from loading up the containers, distributing. So I'm the first guy to go anywhere no one else can go to. Fill in the gaps.
Love that. I love that answer.
Yeah.
If you know how sometimes speakers, when they speak, they walk out to music, almost like a boxer kind of walking to the platform with music playing. What would your song be? What would your music choice be if you were walking out to speak and they had to play a piece of bumper music as you walk onto the stage? What would you want it to be?
I would probably...
We've heard it all, bro. We've heard
probably Final Countdown by Europe. That's what I would probably...
That's awesome. Final Countdown. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got some power to it for sure. Sense of urgency. All right, well let's go ahead and dive into, Act 1, kind of your story of origin. I find that often in nonprofit leaders who are doing amazing things, there's some sort of connective tissue to their upbringing, to their parents or to their home or to a coach or to a teacher or to a situation. What was your origin story? Where were you born? What did life look like? What were the conditions of your origin story, of your childhood?
Yeah, I mean, everything I do is directly related to where I come from. I was born in Soviet Union back in those days, still under communism, and I was born into a family of Protestant bishop. And in those days, practicing religion in Ukraine, it was prohibited, right? So I'm one of 6 children, the youngest. And when I was 4 years old, my father actually was put into prison for being a pastor. And so in the Soviet Union that time, so basically for 2 years, when I was from 4 to 6, we grew up without him. And I remember when I went to meet him with my mom, when he was released from prison after 2 years, I remember him walking out, completely exhausted, completely worn out, shaved head. And it's like after you do 2 years in Soviet prison, is you look pretty terrible. And I remember like today, I said to myself, I never want to live in the world and in a country like that. That something like that would happen to me, to my children, and to the entire country. And I think then 1991 happened, Ukraine became an independent country, and kind of democracy sprung out. And 2022, actually 2014 happened, the first invasion by Russians, where they took part of Crimea, and it felt like Soviet Union is coming back again, and that's basically where I wanted to do something about, to prevent that from happening. And going back to, we always been involved in some sort of service and helping people as a coming up in the family of minister. It's always also about serving people. That's why me being in the nonprofit sector right now directly tied to my upbringing and the culture and the family I grew up in.
I have to imagine that your dad being gone in prison and then back was a bit of a shock for just what it means to have a dad. How old were you when he was out of prison and back in the house?
So he was taken when I was 4, and he was back when I was 6. So that was 2 years. Yeah, he was gone.
Do you remember those 2 years? Because sometimes memories that are traumatic are more clear, more vivid in our memory. Like, are those years clear? Like, do you have a good memory of those?
Oh, me, I remember that like it was yesterday. The whole point of I remember because my mother was actually working at the factory at the time. My older siblings were at school, so I was at home with my grandma, and my father was there at home too. And then basically, the day when they took him, a bunch of KGB agents came into our house, maybe 10 of them and stuff like that. So they did the whole warrant. They turned the whole house upside down. They confiscated, all the religious materials that they would use later on in as evidence in a trial against him. And then, those 2 years has been really difficult because I mean, my older brother, basically my oldest brother, who's one of the person that we started Hope for Ukraine with, was actually become the father figure to us because he was the only one old enough to be able to provide help my mom to support us. So it's been, in those days, it's especially during the Soviet times. I mean, uh, you had really limited options as far as how often can you eat, what you're gonna eat, and what you're gonna wear and stuff like that. So it's been a very difficult days to say the least. And another thing is the social stigma because even after I went to school, everybody knew that my father went to prison, and he went to prison for his religious beliefs, right? So they used to call us all kinds of names. So that's what I remember.
Even though you had these challenging moments, I find people when they're kids still had a vision, sometimes a crazy, audacious vision of being something when they grew up. I want to be the president, or I want to be an actor, or I want to be whatever. Do you remember when you were growing up? What was the thing that you first wanted to be when you were a kid?
Honestly, I always wanted to be a minister, like my father, and that's what he wanted me to be, and it's kind of my life took kind of drastic change because I did my undergrad in biblical studies, and then I went to film school. So I was like, "What are you doing in a film school?" But in the end of the day, it's all kind of brought back to what I'm doing now. So I I my whole entire life, I always wanted to serve people, whatever capacity I could do it. Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about kind of the journey from we're out of childhood now, and now you're in more college, adolescence, those years, that season of life. What was the journey kind of professionally in the early years, education, that brought you into adulthood?
So I did. I mean, first of all, I think what helped me to become who I am right now is uh, those first years when I came to United States, straight from Ukraine, having no language, having and no, and went straight to the college, right? So it kind of like I had to learn English in a matter of 3 months. I had to find a way to make a living, and then it's always all I think I'm a risk taker. I think. Uh, what kept me going is I'm all about getting job done. It's not about how many hours, or I have to work 14 hours. I'll do it just to get it done, and that's what carried me through. And then like one vivid moment I never gonna forget is I was graduating from my undergrad, and then I wanted to get into master degree, right, to do film. And then of course I didn't have no money, so I applied to a scholarship to this university in Virginia. And I get a letter from them saying, hey, the dean of film school want to see you, but he only have opening tomorrow at 2 o'clock. And I was like, I remember like today, it was like Monday, and he had the opening like on Tuesday. So the only way I could get from Rhode Island to Virginia Beach is I had to get a plane. The problem is I had no money for plane tickets. So, I went around, scrap all borrow money from all my student friends. I got that ticket. And then I remember coming into that, dean's office in Virginia Beach next day, straight from the airplane, and he asked me, "How did you get here?" I was like, "I came here just right now, like 30 minutes ago. I just landed." He's like, we made that call because we had this last scholarship that somebody turned down. They couldn't fulfill the requirement. And I told my staff, if this guy, because they gave me less than 24 hours to make to that interview, right? If this guy gonna make on time and not gonna be late, because he said to me, listen, one thing I hate when people are late. You rather be 1 hour early than 10 minutes late. And I came right on the dot. So, and he was like, of course, he didn't promise me nothing, but, we had a good chat with him. And then later on, when I returned back to Rhode Island, they sent me a letter saying, yeah, you got accepted for the full ride to for master degree. So that's basically, taking a no for an answer and just being determined to make it happen no matter what. I think that's what helped me to become who I am.
Do you think that, I have to imagine when you're going into a new country with a new language without a lot of resource or family network to support you, it kind of forces that posture, right? Don't you? I would imagine you were feeling like, I have to figure this out. This is on me. There, like, you know what I mean? Like, was that the feeling more that like it triggered that sense of competition, entrepreneurial energy?
So look, the whole thing is that first of all, we arrived. It was me and my roommate. We didn't have no car, nothing. So somebody donated a bike, but there was one bike for two of us. So we had to like share and take the shift. So I'll never gonna forget my first job. So the way we would get some extra money, right, is the people from the community would come to the college. They would put like a little advertisement in the community hall, say, I need to rake my leaves, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need a student. So I get this notification. This lady put that, she needs some work done on cleaning her yard. So I call her up. She's like, yeah, come on Saturday. I'll show you what you need to do. So I remember like today, I jumped on this white bike. It was about 8 o'clock in the morning Saturday. I ride to her house on the bike about 40 minutes. So I come to the house. On the front, the house was decent. And she's like, you know what? I knock on the door. She comes out. She's like, but don't go inside. Don't go inside. I was like, okay, so what you want me to do? Let's go to the back. So I go to the back, and she says, look at her backyard was full of dog poop. She probably had about 4 dogs in the house, and during the week, she would let them out in the backyard to go. And my job was every Saturday to go and clean up after them. And that was my first job in the United States. So, but the whole thing is that when you have nothing, you have no money, picking up dog poop, man, is the best job in the world. Because at the end of the day, man, the dog poop smells like a box of fresh donuts that you're gonna buy with that $20 you just made. So that's basically what, and that's like you said, is when you that's why I'm so grateful for that experience, because sometimes when you have a support network that always supports you, you kind of don't learn how to become a man, in life. And I think I heard somebody says, there's going to be a day when nobody's going to come for you. There's going to be no one to support you. And at that time, this is when some boys become men and some boys remain boys, because they never learn how to stand on their 2 feet. So I think that experience of me coming to a new world, new country, and kind of learn how to walk without any, ride the bike without any supporting wheels has been a big blessing.
If we connect the dots to today, I have to imagine that childhood, that experience, that all of that combined not only gave you resilience and drive and hustle and ambition, but it also gave you gratitude and a sense of appreciation, where you know what it's like to have little to nothing, and to not be in that position in a place like the US is a pretty damn good position.
Yeah, of course. I mean, yes, it's still the best country in the world, no matter how you look at it. And, that's why my heart always goes out to those who, don't have basic things. I think everyone deserves have a roof over their head, with, meals to eat, and doctors. That's why, everything we do in Ukraine goes down to boots on the ground. I don't believe in virtual nonprofits. I believe it's all about boots on the grounds, and actually and end user, who's the end beneficiary of this, everything that we do. And that's what I track each and every day. I want to make sure that when we have folks send us a box of clothing, right, and they ask me, make sure you can send me pictures of who received this. So when you have a container of 700 boxes, and then we still manage to track that particular box and to track that particular donor, in the end of the day, they know that the efforts that they made, the money they spent shipping it to our office here, it found that end beneficiary, and it actually was delivered to people who really need it. So I think because of the experiences I had here back home and here in the United States, my goal is, how they say, zero waste in food. I want to do the zero waste in nonprofit as well.
Let's talk a little bit about zero waste and how that relates to overhead, because some people look at any overhead costs as waste. Another philosophy is that overhead is people, and people are the heart and the hands and the head of the nonprofit. What's your philosophy around overhead versus waste?
So I look, you do need to have some overhead, because of course you need to have professional people who will run things, and everybody gotta eat. So you do need to have some overhead. When I talk about waste, I'm talking about cost of delivering programs to the beneficiaries. I always bring an example. Our big program is food distribution, right? So we distribute these food kits that feed a family of 4 up to 10 days, right? So our cost per bag, from everything from the beginning to the end, it's about $25, right? We're talking about content inside, delivery, and everything, right? But you can have the cost for that particular bag to be $250. because if you start, doing bunch of training, bunch of seminars on how to distribute them, if you require teams on the ground, have bunch of gear with your labels, with your ammunition, it's all gonna eat up the cost. So in the end of the day, that bag's gonna be much more expensive. So you know, my whole point is to make sure that we, even with the way we ship our aid, we have an agreement with particular logistics company. They let us use their warehouse, but we use them as an exclusive shipper for us, right? So in the end of the day, we don't have to pay a rental fee for the warehouse. So that's cut down the cost of the programs for that particular. So we trying to stretch every dollar the best we can to make sure every dollar makes the biggest impact it can.
Let's move into the story of Hope for Ukraine and how you started it, why you started it, what was your professional experience. I mean, you were clearly wanting to go into film school. You had this trajectory, and now you're leading a nonprofit. Connect the dots between those two times of life. How did you get to where you are today?
So I graduated from the film school, and then I went into the entertainment industry, and I came into that world when reality shows was big deal, right? So that's what we did with my partners. We would create an ideas, and we would pitch these ideas to larger networks for them to make these reality shows, and that's how I earn a living. But I was happy where I was as far as financially, and but there was always something missing for me, right? Because even though when I was fully integrated into the entertainment world, I would always still do a bunch of charity work, right? We would go back to Ukraine, we would do stuff, but then I was like, listen, I want to start my own nonprofit to make sure that every dollar I donate, I know exactly where it goes. In the end of the day, even if I'm going to be the only one donor, hey, let it be. It's just, I'll just be a one man nonprofit. And that I remember I would call our lawyer, and I was like, why can't you file for us for 513C? And he's like, his name is Tom. And Tom was like, are you sure you want to do this? Because this is really hard space to be in. So you might as well find some nonprofit that you can link up and work with them. I was like, no, I just feel like I want to do this, so let's start this. And then he filed it, we got that, and then basically in the beginning it was just like a part-time, 1/3 time, we kind of chugging along. But when I look back, it was all preparing us for 2022, because we started in 2016, and during those years before full invasion, we were able to create a lot of relationship inside of the country with volunteering groups throughout the country. So when full invasion took place by Russians in 2022, we already had a network on the ground that we were able to respond really quick. And that's how right now, we have over 100 different nonprofit groups that work directly with us, delivering aid to the craziest parts of Ukraine. And that's all because we started everything in 2016. If we would start everything in 2022, we would not be as successful as we are right now.
Was 2022, let's go back to that fateful moment where the invasion really became unavoidable and clear. Were you surprised? Or in 2016, did you see that day coming?
I was surprised because there was it was hard to comprehend that in modern day and age somebody would do this at that scale, right? Like 2014, it was much smaller scale, so you saw the Russians use the same type of methods in other parts of the world, like Georgia and stuff like that. So, but to have that full scale invasion that would touch every corner of Ukraine that happened 2022, no one could ever imagine that. So everybody was shocked, and everybody. I mean, I'm still kind of shocked that this is happening to my country, because in the end of the day, it's you think about as the society progresses, that people get smarter, but actually we're not getting smarter. Like, if what you see in Ukraine is complete, it's complete out of the ordinary situation.
Yeah, I have to imagine that in ongoing evasion in a country being torn apart like this, you don't really ever get used to it,
Yeah.
or do you? Like like it's been now a good 3+ years. What's your current emotional state? What's your maybe sense of hope about the ending of this? Are you in a posture that says this is just our new normal for the next so many years or longer, or do you feel like there is hope, or there is an end to this that's in sight?
This is going to continue as long as Putin is alive. So it's not going to end. It might be a little bit on a smaller scale, but it's going to be the only way we're going to stop if a Russian economy collapses and they have no money to wage the war against Ukraine, or if Putin is no longer on this earth, because his complete goal in life is to take over Ukraine, and he will do whatever it takes and how many years it takes to accomplish that goal. So unfortunately, there is really not positive outcome I see on the horizon anytime soon.
Did 2022 recalibrate your own sense of leadership of the nonprofit, where maybe earlier it was like a corollary thing, something that could exist on the side of the rest of your career, and now it's your primary thing because of what's happening in Ukraine? Or was it already your primary thing? 2022 just increased the need and reality that you were facing.
No, I mean it's a primary on primary thing starting 2022, because you need to stay on top of things in order for things to get done. And when you have so many people who need help, unless you fully dialed in each and every day, things will fall through the cracks. And that's not acceptable when you're dealing with the lives of people and when you're dealing with somebody else's money. Because in the end of the day, I tell everyone, look at how Hope for Ukraine as a publicly traded company that happened to do a charitable work. And our primary goal is to serve to serve the people we serve, and also deliver on a trust of our donors, which is our shareholders. And that's basically how our entire team working. There's no such thing as 40 hours a week. It's all about getting job done, and if job is not completed, then we will stay at it until it's done. But right now we're utilizing all type of technical solutions to be more efficient and to make sure that we don't have big overhead with a lot of people accomplishing, but trying to utilize the technology to cut down on the cost of actually human beings doing stuff for us.
Let's talk a little bit about your model and how you've structured the nonprofit. So you've got Hope for Ukraine. You talked about all of the different partners that you work with and through. You've got multiple projects, from family support to refugees to A Child's Smile to medical support, frontline. Just talk a little bit about kind of how Hope for Ukraine has been structured and how you see it evolving and growing.
So our programs is centered around the need on the ground, and basically where we see the need. Then, for example, we just launched solar energy resilience program, because we have a lot of folks in Ukraine who live without electricity for extended period of time. So before we used to deliver to them firewood, but it was not sustainable. So we launched this program. Now they're getting these solar power generators. They give them heat. They're able to cook and stuff like that. So our programs, we have our core programs, and then if we see the need, then we launch the new programs to address the need on the ground. So basically, our whole structure is built on communication. Communication, communication, communication. I believe that every relationship breaks down if there's a lack of communication. No matter where it's in marriage, in business, whatever you're talking about, if there's lack of communication, things not gonna work right. So built we have built the great communications with our partners. So we launched a humanitarian aid program application called Hope Nadia. So basically, what happens is that with that CRM, with that software, we know exactly who picked up what from our warehouse in Lviv, where it was delivered, who received it, and we can track everything, and they report back to us as soon as they deliver everything, so we can track and communicate with all our partners on the ground. On our donor side, what we do is that I do believe in full transparency and clear lines of communication. We update about our work every 2 hours on our social media. So if you ever want to know what Hope for Ukraine is doing, follow our Facebook or Instagram page, and then in 2 days you're kind of gonna know exactly where we're working in what area. So every 2 hours they're getting an update exactly what's happening, and I think that's helping everyone understand that they are part of this process. So it's not like I'm just somewhere, writing a check to, but I'm actually part of the process, and I'm there with you guys. So I think that's how we've been structured, and I think that's what helped us really uh, help a lot of people make an impact on the ground.
Talk a little bit about that philosophy of proactive communication. Sounds like providing systems that give people access to data so they have a greater sense of trust and there's efficacy. What you're doing is truly connecting the donor's dollar to the ground in a way that provides, from what I can tell, a greater level of transparency and awareness than you typically find in nonprofits like yours. Was that a conviction from day one? Is that something you learned over the course of getting started, or because it sounds very unique to you and to your model?
I mean, we've been doing that ever since we started, but we were doing like once a day. We did this once a day updates, and then I noticed that it's not enough because of the way the society is shifting. Right, the people always want to be on top of the information, and they want to be connected. Right, they want to get the new set of updates as soon as they can. And that's basically once we launch these 2 hours updates, we've seen increase on every angle. We're talking about on the revenue, on the response, on the new acquisition of new donors with zero marketing dollars spent. And that's, I think, a proof that is something that is working in our day society. Because why is TikTok so big these days? It's because people have attention span for 15 seconds, most of us, and they want a lot of that information from different angle, right? So and that's why we have different programs that cater to different type of donors. We have donors who are interested in feeding people. We have donors who are interested in education. We have donors who are interested in medical support. So we're trying to connect the particular donors to particular programs that align with their interest and with their passion.
When you think about where you are today and where you want to be, and let's call it 18 to 24 months. I would go longer, but I think there's a certain immediacy in the nonprofit that you're building and the work that you're doing. So in 18 to 24 months, which is far enough out to accomplish something significant, but still pretty close, right? It's not so far. What do you see as being most different around Hope for Ukraine? Do you see it being the exact same model, just more funding, larger? Do you see significant transformation or change in the nonprofit, the brand, in what you're doing?
I think we're gonna keep on innovating. I think we. Uh, uh, I always say the money follow impact, and that's what we're gonna practice. We will keep on broadcasting our impact and amplifying our impact. And creating impact in other areas that we've not been working with. And my goal is in 18 months to 24 months, never send email asking for support from our donors. That's my goal. I want to get to the point where people will be given just because they know exactly that they are given at the right, they put the money in the right hand and they are part of that whole team and they need to support their own cause that they have been linked up to. So that's my my goal. Right now, we're not sending any mailers as it is, but I want to come to the point where we don't even have to send emails. We will always communicate to them as far as the program goes, but there's going to be no fundraising emails.
Let's talk a little bit about this idea of impact. So it's very common to hear, and I often say, money follows vision. Big, clear, bold vision fuels generosity. You said something interesting. You said money follows impact, which I think maybe gets at your approach, which is demonstrating through the data and the transparency and the CRM, the actual work, the impact being done. Impact is not vision. They're related, but they're different. It sounds like you're more of a pragmatic, this is what's happening, this is what you're funding, this is what the need is. It's real, it's right now, and it's not vision, meaning future perfect.
Yeah, that's why, like I said before, that I don't believe in virtual nonprofits. I think.
Well, okay, let's unpack that. What's a virtual nonprofit? Would you say that phrase?
I mean, do a conference about, okay, we're gonna do this project in 10 years. Let's do some fact finding. Let's go on a fact finding mission. Let's set up some. So you spend like 5 years planning on something that you're gonna do another 5 years. So basically, nonprofits who fund exactly what they're trying to do, right? And then basically, for us, why I'm saying impact, money follow impact, because I think in the end of the day, just like if you put $10 into a stock, right? You want that $10 to bring you return. You're not going to put $10 and that $10 is going to be sitting there in 10 years. You come back, it's still $10 there. You will pull up your money, right? So I feel like if people see that they gave us $10 and they see the $10 provided a bag of food or $25 in a matter of 10 days, then they know that this is, then they're willing to give you $50 next time. Because the speed of the impact also matters, right? The people, like for example, when we launched a solar power generator program, like we started this and we didn't have like a supplier lined up at that time yet, but it was just a big need on the ground. So these solar generators, we actually had to go all around the country and pick them up from Costco's and buy 10 here, 10 there to ship them over there until we found the whole But the supply chain with the supplier only came to us like in April this year. So if you would sit and wait to establish the relationship with the supplier, we would waste 3 months without impact. And that would kill the program, because if you announce in the program and people don't see impact and they start donating to it and they don't see a return on their donations as far as the impact on the ground, then they kind of lose focus and they lose interest in it and they move on to something else. So when we announce the program, we launch in the program the same day. We don't wait for it. We launch in small and then we scale in as we get more funding.
Makes total sense. When you think about innovation and change, you're clearly an innovator. You're clearly somebody who leverages technology, and you've done a lot of amazing things given the size and scope of your nonprofit. Where do you see technology continuing to evolve? Technology is a big question in a lot of nonprofit leaders' minds. How do you see tech being better leveraged for the future, and where do you potentially see things going?
I mean, the tech is going to take over and help us become more effective. Just one example. So we implemented this AI run chatbot on our website. So basically, everybody who go in there, somehow have some questions, they can answer these questions. The AI answering these questions, But in the beginning, I didn't know how it's gonna, actually impact our day-to-day operations. But this one innovation actually took, like 20 hours of someone sitting and answering the emails. Same thing with our humanitarian app. We worked the whole year last year to build this app, and we just launched it this year. But before this app, everything was done manually. So basically, the reporting from the local nonprofits, because we have to file also everything in Ukraine with Ukrainian authority, all the aid we distribute and stuff like that. There was a lot of red tape. So before it was all done manually. So it took 4 times more time than it takes right now. So I'm all about creating time. And I think if you use technology wise, then you create more time for yourself as a nonprofit leader to communicate with your donors, because the bread and butter is the communication with our donors, to be able to pick up the phone and call each donor yourself directly, thank them, write them email, let them know that they are part of this team. And that's what really a beautiful thing. So I think embracing technology is the key for any organization to survive in the modern day and age, because otherwise is you're gonna become legacy, and once you become legacy, it's really hard to operate. The way that people consume information now, and then especially new generation of donors, I mean, they operate on a totally different level than yeah.
I would imagine that you're tapping into people who have a deep sense of connection to Ukraine. And like so many brands that we work with, their identity, who they see themselves as, is boosted and made better because of their association with you and what Hope for Ukraine is doing. Have you tapped into that sentiment through creating merchandise or bumper stickers, guerrilla marketing, sweatshirts, things that kind of help get the message out there by people who might be very likely to wear the brand?
We haven't done a lot of that. Our main focus is on social media, and our main goal on creating engaging community. So we maximizing each and every post, each and every reel we post, to make sure we have a great engagement. And our goal is bring them into our website, where they can really experience our brand and really learn what we do. So as far as tangible things, we really have not been big champions of that. S- we centered more on the digital side. Even our online store, our merch store, we using a third party company who's shipping these things out. We create them, but basically this way we don't have to store inventory and we don't have to handle shipping. People go there and then the third party company handles everything for us so we can focus on impact.
Yeah, I want to just pursue two things here before we close. First, you had said you hope in the future that you never have to send one more email. It sounds like you don't want to do donor acquisition. You don't want to get in. You don't want to be in the fundraising machine of like acquiring new donors and getting small gifts and cultivating them into larger gifts and da 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 da. How do you envision a future apart from that? Like, do you feel like the brand and the existing donors will just perpetuate their own donors, or
No. So when I was talking about emails, I was talking about emails to our existing donor base. We're always going to be acquiring new donors, right? We're always going to be connecting through outreach outside of our existing base, right, to new people to connect them to our vision. So as far as acquiring new donors, we're always going to work on that. But I'm talking about the ones who already connected to Hope for Ukraine, that we can build that type of relationship that we don't have to ask them for to support our mission. They know that they are part of it, that they will basically do it on their own. But our main acquisition is always going to be through social media, and that's we've been seeing a great success with that, as far as the bringing the message to the new people, new communities like that.
we talk a lot about brand first fundraising strategy, which is essentially letting the power of your brand and message and tribe and equipping them to kind of become that flywheel that just keeps spinning and growing engagement and ultimately donors. It sounds like you have huge vision for that and opportunity. Let's talk a little bit about what you've learned. So you've been doing this now for a long time, right? Almost 10 years.
Yeah.
You've made a lot of strides, a lot of innovation. If you were in a room talking to, 250 senior nonprofit leaders at some sort of conference or setting, what do you think would be most compelling or necessary for you to share? What would you most want to share about your kind of, this is what I've learned. If you heard nothing else from me, hear this. What would be your word or your kind of prophetic call to those leaders?
I think, like I said before, communication is number one, and response time. So we have a policy that every email that comes into Hope for Ukraine gets responded within 24 hours. So basically, and every phone call returned within 24 hours. And if we have donation, the donation receipts are mailed as soon as we receive the donation. And that's because I never gonna forget, one time in the beginning we received this one donation and we send the tax receipt to this particular donor, and then we got this letter back from this particular donor saying, guys, I've been donating to a lot of nonprofits. You're the first one from whom I got my receipt so quick. Just because of that, I'm sending you a second check. But it's always stuck with me is, in the end of the day, it's these people, they took the time, to write you a check, they took money of their life saving, and us as the receivers of this, our due diligence is supposed to be respond as quick as possible to them. And I think that's the communication and response time, I think, would be a key, and innovation. I mean, in the end of the day, right now, if you don't have a solid social media following, I mean, you really need to work on that as a nonprofit leader, because that's basically that's what will separate from those who strive and those who will have a difficult time in the future.
To what extent is major gifts a priority for your funding? Do you spend a lot of time in the major gifts category going after corporate or other large checks?
No, our majority of gifts are small donors. So, and that's the strategy I'm pursuing religiously. I do want to build a network of a lot of small donors that will uh, support our cause. This way, we don't, we can have a large network, because in the end of the day, it's a rule of seven. Everyone is seven people away from someone else. So, if the more smaller donors you have, you're building, it's a better marketing strategy than when you're trying to build your operations on a couple large donors. And if those large donors disappear, then you're sitting and scratching your head. You don't know how you're gonna make it. So I think our model, the way, because a lot of our fundraising done through crowdfunding, and I think that's the model that people giving $10, $25. That's what basically those little small donation become a big pie in the end of the year.
Let's say that the conflict ends for some crazy, unforeseen reason. I have to assume Hope for Ukraine continues. That there's no reality anytime in the near future where Hope for Ukraine isn't necessary.
I mean, I want us to be unnecessary if we accomplish everything we're supposed to accomplish. So I tell everyone, that my goal is to work myself out of the job one day. So there's going to be no more poverty. There's going to be no more rebuilding to do. But unfortunately, that's just a dream at this point. And the way things are looking in Ukraine, even if the war stops today, it's going to take decades to rebuild and rebuild lives. So we will be around, God willing, for as long as we have to be there.
Is there any part of Hope for Ukraine or your story that you feel like would be a huge miss if we didn't focus on it or we didn't hit it?
I think our message is pretty clear, and our strategy is pretty clear, and our approach is pretty clear. And I think money after impact is what I live by. So that's what we start every staff meeting with, and we finish every meeting. What impact you made today, and that's basically what I want everyone to know about Hope for Ukraine. That we're all about impact, and we're all about helping those that are suffering greatly in Ukraine.
When you talk about impact and you start your meetings with impact, what are some of the ways people directly connect their work to that idea of impact? What are some of the little bullet points or stories that you hear?
I mean, I ask everyone what's share one story that really made the impact on you this particular week, and that's, like, everybody's always asking, how do you motivate people to work for you for little money you pay them, right? And that's what motivates people is impact. Our whole on the ground mission is based on volunteers. So when I told you about these 100+ groups, they're not paid. We only help them with the gas, or we help them with the supplies, right? But because after they get supplies from a warehouse, and when they go and they see impact, when they're helping these people who have nothing, that's what makes them come back. And sometimes when we see these volunteers coming back from these crazy areas that you don't know if you're going to come back alive, but they coming back and they go back to load more stuff and go back, and we ask them, why are you doing this? It's because I was inspired, that I came to this half destroyed house that I thought there was no one living there. I beeped the horn of my car, and there's older lady that's living in the basement of half-destroyed house comes out, and she starts crying because I was the first person from outside she have seen for a long time. And that's why I have to go back, because there's another 10 of these are living in those type of conditions. And then when you connect people to the impact, then no money can buy that feeling. That's why people give. It's because of that internal satisfaction and that drive that make you feel good and fuzzy because you have done something for someone that they cannot do for themselves. So I think once you connect everyone to that impact and they see it and it's obvious and it's tangible, it's not something that's virtual, but they can see it each and every day, then it's much easier to run organizations and have a team that is really passionate about what they're doing, and they're happy to come to work because they know in the end of the day they're all going to go home tired, but they're going to sleep well because they have really made something meaningful, impactful during that day.
For more stories from experts in the industry and to learn how to take your nonprofit into the future, like this video, subscribe to our channel and podcast, and visit makehistoric.com/insights. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Ted Vaughn, and this is Future Nonprofit.